In a world increasingly shaped by geopolitical rivalries and shifting alliances, the warming of relations between China and India stands out as a development with quite far-reaching implications. At the heart of this thought is a high-stakes meeting that took place on the sidelines of the BRICS Summit back in October of 2024 in Kazan in Russia. There, Chinese President Xi Jinping and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi sat down face-to-face, and that meeting signaled a joint desire to stir the countries toward a new chapter of cooperation and hopefully increase stability despite a recent border conflict. That meeting marked a turning point between the two countries. For years, relations between the two Asian countries had been quite strained, particularly since the border clash of 2020 that cast a long shadow over bilateral engagement. But now there is a quite noticeable shift. The message is clear. China and India, two Asian civilizations and modern powerhouses in their own right, are once again exploring how to coexist peacefully and hopefully productively. And the tariff war and the ongoing trade tensions seem to serve as a catalyst for this power shift. The diplomatic thaw didn't happen overnight, however. They returned to high-level dialogues, meetings between top officials that signal trust is slowly being rebuilt. That was the first step. Foreign Minister Wang Yi's recent visit to India has become a crucial piece of that puzzle. It comes just weeks before Prime Minister Modi's planned visit to China on August the 31st to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in Tianjin. The visit will be PM Modi's first trip to China in over 7 years. So it is clear that Wang Yi's visit to India is no routine diplomatic stopover. He traveled to India at the invitation of National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, who himself actually traveled to China back in December for key security talks. These ongoing conversations are part of a larger mechanism that both sides have put in place to maintain diplomatic connections, particularly in light of their disputed border territory.
Having seen a difficult period in our relationship, Excellency, our two nations now seek to move ahead. This requires a candid and constructive approach from both sides. In that endeavor, we must be guided by the three mutuals: mutual respect, mutual sensitivity, and mutual interest. Differences must not become disputes, nor competition conflict.
And let's be honest, nobody really expects centuries of rivalry to vanish with a few handshakes. The new dynamic is helping both countries navigate their differences more constructively, and also it helps them show a certain degree of alignment on some key issues. After all, both states are members of the BRICS Bloc. It appears that the goal of this new shift is to prevent border tensions from hijacking the broader relationship. And this is, I think, something that truly gives hope that the diplomatic approach will prevail, and hopefully it will do so in the broader region too. Because when border disputes dominate headlines, cooperation in trade, in foreign direct investments, technology, culture, and other avenues, it tends to fade into the background. And so it does appear that India and China have begun to explore the path of broader regional dialogue in light of India-US tensions, and of course in light of the ongoing US-China disconnect when it comes to such issues, such important issues as Taiwan and of course trade tensions. With all of that being said, for two neighboring nations that are home to over a third of the world's population, cooperation isn't just ideal, it is quite essential. As the world's two most populous nations and two of its largest emerging economies, China and India have everything to gain from closer ties. For the United States, however, this represents a bit of a wake-up call, although arguably not many in Washington are paying attention. Their economic structures are not just competitive, but also complementary in key areas. And by focusing on common ground rather than on their differences, the two sides can unlock quite tremendous potential for both economic development and regional stability in terms of security. Recent talks in Beijing between Wang Yi and Indian External Affairs Minister Jaishankar reflect this growing optimism. Wang Yi emphasized the need to, quote, aim high and to think long term. His Indian counterpart, who is a truly stellar diplomat, responded in kind, effectively pledging India's willingness to work with China not only for mutual benefit, but for the broader good of the entire region. Of course, that's a lot of diplomatic talk, but the key here is that there is quite a bit of alignment now between the two countries, and if it continues to move forward in this type of a positive manner, the Indo-Pacific region could indeed benefit from more stability and from both countries maintaining a dialogue. There's no need for a third actor here if the key regional players find common language. And let's hope that the third player, which of course I'm referring to the United States, gets the memo, although it is quite doubtful. The good news is that both India and China have started to move in that direction. If you follow the news, you may notice that even people-to-people exchanges are picking up again, and there's been a subtle shift in New Delhi's attitude toward Chinese investment. While some measures are still falling short of expectations, the intent is there, and the intent does matter. China has consistently approached its relationship with India with a strategic, big-picture mindset. It sees the bilateral relationship not just as a regional affair, but as a component of global stability, which it clearly is. India, in turn, must meet China halfway, which it appears to be on that path. That means backing up diplomatic gestures with meaningful actions, not just reacting to external pressures like tariff threats from Washington. Because if this warming of ties is merely seen as a knee-jerk response to American trade aggression, it actually risks being viewed as temporary or worse, disingenuous. China's state media, including China Daily, has been quick to dispel the notion that improving relations with India are the result of U.S. sanctions. According to Chinese officials, the thaw in China-India ties began well before the United States imposed tariffs on Indian goods. The historic meeting between Xi Jinping and Modi at the BRICS Summit last year was the real catalyst. And the United States pressure has been increasing. In late July, President Trump announced a sweeping 25% tariff on Indian imports. His administration cited high Indian tariffs, regulatory hurdles, and India's growing cooperation with Russia, especially through energy deals, as the reasons for those new tariffs. That penalty, which of course it was a type of a punishment, took effect on August the 27th alongside another executive order that imposed further sanctions for India's continued oil purchases from Moscow. But from China's perspective, its engagement with India isn't about countering the United States. It is about building a stable future in Asia, one that isn't defined by friction, but by cooperation. And so that, to me, is the key takeaway. As two major voices of the global South, China and India are integral components of the emerging multipolar global framework. And together, they can champion a world order that favors dialogue over domination and development over division. A dialogue where militarism becomes a thing of the past. Now, that might sound too hopeful, maybe, for now, but it does appear that New Delhi and Beijing might be moving in that direction. A stable and productive relationship between China and India can drive growth across Asia, it can stabilize regional politics, and it may offer a counterweight to growing unilateralism and protectionism. It could also open new avenues in areas like green energy, digital innovation, and cross-border infrastructure. Let me know what you think about this recent development. I would love to hear from you whether you think that there is a possibility for China and India to truly really improve their relations? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. Follow me on Substack and Patreon. You will find them linked below. I would love to see you there. And I will see you back here on my channel tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.